Assalamu alaikum and welcome to lesson 3 about the usage and definition of logic as instrumental science of our course on logic or mantiq. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma akhrijna min zulumatil wahm wa akrimna binuril fahm. اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So before we proceed on lesson 3, let us have a summary of lesson 2, which is about the subject of logic. First, there are two types of knowledge and ignorance, what we call conception or tasawwur, and assent or affirmative, or what we call as tasdiq. Number 2, conceptual ignorance is when we do not know about the nature and essence of something, and assenting ignorance is when there is no judgment or belief about the relationship of something with regards to something else. Number 3, knowledge, whether conceptual or assenting, can be divided into two in terms of the need for mental acquisition and needlessness for it. 1, axiomatic or self-evident knowledge, or what we call as ilmu daruri or badihi, and number 2, cognitive or acquisitive knowledge, or what we call ilmu nazari or iktisabi. Iktisab means something that is, or iktisab means to acquire. Kasb. Number 4, since logic is responsible for presenting the ways of arriving at the unknown or majhulat, while conception and assent are the ways of arriving at the conceptual and assenting unknown, it can be said that the subject of knowledge is the definitions and evidence, and not conception and assent. So having this general recap on lesson 2, let us proceed on lesson 3 proper, about the usage and definition of logic as instrumental science. And in this lesson, we will deal with certain subtopics. 1, the usage of logic. Number 2, logic as an instrumental science. And number 3, definition of logic. The usage of logic. The ancients have said that at the beginning of any science, 8 things which are known as the 8 vertices or ru'us thamaniya must become clear. One of them is the purpose or gharad, or the goal or ghaya, or the end point. And another is the usage of that science. And it is said that the difference between purpose and use is as follows. The goal of any science is what it pursues and is the result of the said science. For example, the goal of mathematics is to explain the relations of ratios and rules of quantities, And the goal of medicine is to present physical diseases and the ways of curing them. What is gained through learning of some science is the usage of the said science or that science. Of course, gaining utility of some science is not fatalistic or determinist, but it depends on observing the laws and rules of the said science. For example, the utility of the rules of mathematics is the facility for quantitative computation. Logic is going to explain the method of correct thinking and the discovery of the unknown. This is the goal or gharad of logic. The usage of logic is that it makes the mind immune from the mistakes in thinking through the rules and by committing wrong in gaining mental unknown. Logic as an instrumental science. Sciences are divided into various groups for certain considerations. From one point of view, sciences are classified as instrumental or ali and fundamental or asali. Instrumental sciences are used in other fields of science, such that if there is no other science, there would also be no instrumental science. That is reasonable. Fundamental science is not a prerequisite of other sciences and is independent of others. But instrumental is something else. In fact, it is the opposite. Although such sciences may be used in other majors, in their essence, they are not secondary to any other science. Let us explain. For example, if we consider algebra and arithmetic as two sciences, we see that algebra is a prerequisite of arithmetic. And for this reason, in algebraic rules and equations, there is no word for a spatial number, but rules are mentioned by coded characters. These rules are used in arithmetic, which deals with quantities. Algebra, therefore, is an instrumental science and arithmetic is a fundamental one. That is, if there were no arithmetic, there would be no algebra. The science of the principles of jurisprudence, or what we call as usulul fiqh, is a prerequisite of jurisprudence or fiqh, because it is meant to guide a jurist concerning a jurist or faqih concerning the general rules and spatial standards which he uses while inferring on religious rules. Logic is one of the instrumental sciences. Why? Because if there were no other rational sciences like philosophy and others, there would have been no place for logic. Logic, therefore, is an instrumental science and all other sciences which use logical rules are accounted as fundamental sciences in relation to logic or mantiq. Definition of logic. Generally, sciences and branches of knowledge can be defined in three ways. One, definition of the subject matter of science. Number two, definition of the goal of science. And number three, definition of the issues of science. For example, we can define mathematics as one, a science that discusses quantities, meaning it is subject-oriented. A science which defines relations and ratios of numbers and makes the calculations easy and fast. So this definition, and this another definition of mathematics, is goal-oriented. It focuses on the goal of the subject or the science. Number three, a science that deals with the issue of being even or odd, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, etc. So this definition is obviously issues oriented. Of course, a comprehensive definition is one that includes all the above mentioned characteristics, 1, 2, 3. Subject-oriented, goal-oriented, or issues-oriented. Now, after a familiarity with some of the characteristics of logic, we can define it as follows. Logic is an instrumental science that indicates the rules of definition and argumentation, and considering its rule, the mind would be safe from any mistake. In this definition, some of the characteristics of logic are as follows, as can be obtained from this definition. One, the subject of knowledge, that is definition and argument. Number two, instrumentality of logic. And number three, correctness of the rules of logic. And number four, no other than the use of logic or mantiq. So as review questions, or in fact, it's not just review, it could be a pre-lecture questions. One, what are the use and goal of a science? Number two, explain the instrumentality of logic. Number three, what is the definition of logic? Number four, what are the characteristics mentioned in the definition of logic? And as a practical exercise, let us consider this activity. Compare the definition of logic with that of Arabic morphology and syntax, or sarf wa nahu, which I am sure you have already taken your Arabic subjects. I think more or less you have already your Arabic 6, 5, or 6. So, and write down their similarities and differences. So, these are our review questions and practical exercise. So that's all about lesson 3. Next meeting, inshallah, we will deal with the next lesson, lesson 4, which is about the formulator of logic, inshallah ta'ala. So for more similar contents, subscribe to Wayfaring with Mansoor channel. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.